Hello, my name is Morgan Sheehy. I'm the Ruminant Director in Devenish, and on my left here is Stephen Leahy. Stephen is the farm manager in Tom O'Donnell's farm in Portlaoise, and over on the extreme left in David Atherton over from the UK, and David is Thompson and Joseph. So we'd like to discuss about SoyChlor here. So David, first of all, do you want to just tell us briefly what is SoyChlor, where it comes from?
Indeed, Morgan. Yes, SoyChlor is a specialist concentrate for feeding to dry cows for the last 2 to 3 weeks before calving. It's a specialist concentrate that it's designed to reduce the incidence of milk fever and hypocalcaemia, which is a major nutritional problem in dairy cows. It's produced in the US, and it was developed initially by Professor Jesse Goff, who is a very well-known dairy researcher at the University of Iowa and has published more than 200 papers on close-up dry cow nutrition over the last 30 years.
Thanks, David. Now, and Stephen, you have been working with SoyChlor since 2013, is that right? And
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
Right? So it's 13 years on SoyChlor.
Yeah.
So before you commenced using SoyChlor, what was the typical incidence of?
We'd had over previous couple of years, we'd had an increase in incidence of subclinical milk fever, and it hit 70% in 2009-10, and that year we started using SoyChlor, and it just eliminated all problems straight away.
Okay.
We never see any of those issues anymore.
I remember, Stephen, at the time you mentioned that was one of the few products that you ever used that did what it said on the tin.
Yeah, of all there's probably two products that spring to mind, and SoyChlor is the number one that we've come across over the years, and it does exactly what it's meant to do.
And David, do you want to just fill us in a little bit on SoyChlor is used to reduce the cation anion balance in the diet, and obviously, would you like to explain what is cation anion balance in a nutshell? Or?
Yes, well, hypocalcaemia that Stephen mentioned is calcium deficiency. For every one cow that goes down with milk fever, we probably have 10 cows with subclinical hypocalcaemia, and that sort of shows itself in terms of hung cleansings, dirty cows, extended calvings, cows that take a long time to come into milk. It has long-term consequences in depressed immunity. So one of the risk factors for hypocalcaemia is potassium in grass silage. And it is the major contributor to a parameter called dietary cation anion balance, which is shortened to DCAB, DCAB. And that the higher the DCAB number, the greater the risk of milk fever and hypocalcaemia. So our aim is to firstly identify the potassium and DCAB level in the silage that's being fed, because that gives us an indicator as to how much SoyChlor we need to feed in order to reduce the DCAB to a level which helps calcium utilization and availability in the cow in order to reduce the risk of milk fever and hypocalcaemia.
So normally what happens at farm level is we initially go out and take appropriate samples of all the forages, and we use detailed analysis to establish the cation anion balance, and based on that then we work on what level of SoyChlor should be included in the diets. So on average SoyChlor is included at about roughly between 1 and 1.25 kilos in most cases. But if we're
That's
using
right.
1 kilo, David, you might just tell people how much that reduced DCAB by in the diet.
Yeah, well, 1 kilo of SoyChlor reduces the DCAB by about 250 units. Now, typically, a dry cow diet with average silage is going to have a DCAB level of around 350, 400, something of that sort. And we really want to bring that down, if possible, to below 100 in order to be able to give calcium a real kick in terms of its absorption and utilization within the cow, which is really what this exercise is all about. So 250 units reduction with SoyChlor.
And David, isn't it true to say that while we have two options to go full DCAB and a partial DCAB, at farm level to minimise monitoring on farm and to keep it simple for the farmers. If we have consistent forages and a consistent feeding system with appropriate feed space per cow, which is the case here, Stephen. Like you're very adamant, Stephen, you need a metre per cow in the close-up period. And the cows move into the close-up 3 weeks beforehand and plenty space. And so then that we work partial DCABs, so it minimises work from the farmer's point of view, and it's a very straightforward system then.
Yeah, it's important to have a practical system, as Morgan says, and DCAB can go negative, which is what a full DCAB is, and that is quite a severe stress on the cow, and it's quite difficult to implement from a practical point of view. A partial DCAB is looking at a DCAB of somewhere from 0 to plus 100, somewhere in that area, and that's very effective and practical for reducing the risk of milk fever and hypocalcaemia.
And David, I would say from the practical use, and Stephen would have mentioned it several times here as well, that where a lot of people try other products on the market, and there are other good products on the market, but one of the key distinguishing features that we find with SoyChlor is that we keep the dry matter intake up in the cow. And do you want to just comment on that? Because keeping the dry matter intake up as the cow approaches calving is absolutely crucial in minimising post-calving issues.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that we tend to see as cows approach calving, of course, the size of the calf pressing on the rumen starts to lead to a reduction in dry matter intake of the cow, and that's inevitable. Anything we can do to minimise that will ensure that the energy deficit that the cow will experience at calving is reduced. And if the energy deficit gets too great, then the cow tips into ketosis, which is yet another set of metabolic problems that depresses immunity, milk production, fertility in the cow. So SoyChlor has a proven track record of supporting dry matter intake. It increases dry matter intake by about 1 to 1.5 kilos per cow per day, compared with the use of other anionic salt products. So this is a key feature, and it's something that most of the farmers who use SoyChlor will comment on.
Yeah. So Stephen, I suppose at farm level, the two big issues you've always been commenting on is palatability, and that they eat it cooked very readily, and increasing dry matter intake. That they're the two outstanding features, because they're the issues in comparison to other products that are distinguished completely and so on.
Very much so. Yeah.